Good evening. Man, it's around about 10:30 right now. I've been praying and praying and praying, and you see, there's a message that God just put in me. You see, I'm about to sleep right now, and this is what God is saying. He says, how can I put this? He's actually telling me about the effects or the effects of disobedience. You see, as I was praying right now, I was mentioning names about how Abraham had to look up the stars and then had to count the sand so that he would stay in faith. How David, after they had ransacked the camp and all that, had to strengthen himself in the Lord. You see, how all the other people that God promised things to, God always directed to say, directed them to look at something, to remind themselves that God was still there. You see, the serpent that Moses rose up and people got healed, that was God. You see, the cloud that led the Israelites by day and the fire, the pillar of fire by night, that was God, saying that I'm still right there. You see, and then there's something that God will always give you something to look at. You see, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. But that's neither here nor there. What I want to talk to you about is disobedience, and that's what he was telling me right now. You see, disobedience has effects, has disadvantages, has consequences. And the first thing he said is that you think that disobedience only affects you. He said, no, disobedience affects the people around you. And he directed me and reminded me of what happened to Jonah. Remember what happened to Jonah? He got on a boat and he left, and he was like, there were people with him in the boat. And when God started, I don't know how to explain it, but when God started to, attack the boat and all of that, the people got affected too. You see, the people could have died, not knowing why. But Jonah knew why someone was suffering. Jonah knew why somebody didn't have a job. Jonah knew why that person was not saved. Jonah knew why that person started drinking. Jonah knew. And that Jonah is you and me. You and I are those Jonahs, and we need to fix it. That's why I'm not condemning anyone, because I'm guilty of it too. You see, there's a little bit of Jonah inside of me. You see, but then he said this: the consequence of disobedience does not only affect me or you, it affects the people around us, hence the people in the boat with Jonah. You see, there are people out there, people who should be saved right now, but are not saved because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. There are people out there who who should be in school right now, but they're not in school. Why? Because you didn't do what God said you should do. There's disobedience. You see, there are people out there in your family suffering right now, and that's because you didn't pray. That's because you didn't fast. That's because you didn't wake up when God said you should wake up. That's because you didn't approach the people that God said you should approach. You see, and he directed and reminded me of what T.D. Jakes said. T.D. Jakes once said that some of you in here, he was doing his sermon, he said this: some of you in here are murderers. And I'm reminded of that too. How many people have died because you didn't do what you were supposed to do? That we didn't do what we were supposed to do as God's children. How many people are suffering out there because we refuse to serve? We refuse to do good. We refuse to do what God says. How many people out there, don't have jobs because you didn't listen to God saying you should build or start that company? You see, how many people out there are suffering or starving because you refuse to give? You don't give anymore. Your heart has been hardened now. See, that's the consequence of disobedience. And I believe that this is the first part of the series about disobedience. You see, disobedience doesn't only affect you, it affects the people around you too. You see, disobedience didn't only affect Jacob, it affected his children after that, because the children turned against each other. You see, they went into slavery for 425 years or even more. You see, that's because of disobedience. That's because he stole when he was not supposed to steal, when he shouldn't have stolen anything. That was not his. The blessing was not his. It was for Esau. Don't get me wrong. I'm guilty too, and I admit it. Question is, what are you willing to do about it? What am I willing to do about it? I'm doing something now because I'm telling you this. What are you willing to do about this? Sila.